The BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup is brought to you by Gads Shocks and Townsend Vehicle Hire Rugby.
Hello, I'm Lloyd Bonson, and you join me today at Silverstone for the final rounds of the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. The title race is going down to the wire between James Blake Baldwin and Tom Roach. I'll hand you over to our race commentator to take you through the grid.
So with 3 races to go, this is how the championship standings look. It could not be closer. James Blake Baldwin is a single point clear of Tom Roach at the head of the points, with Johnny Greensmith still with a mathematical chance of winning the title in 3rd. Jack Harding and Liam Murphy round out the top 5. Here is how they line up on the grid for this first of 3 races here at Silverstone. Tom Roach and James Blake Baldwin share the front row of the grid. It couldn't have been scripted any better. Nick Dunn and Tom Collins row 2, Jack Harding, Jamie Goddard row 3, with Liam Murphy and Johnny Greensmith on row 4. Simon Goddard's down on row 5 alongside guest driver Paul O'Neill. Brian Chandler's back on row 6 with Chris Dawkins alongside him. Then Nathan Bell and Gary Townsend with Richard Wickland and Ray Worley on row 8. Row 9 for Jeff Gurrier and Simon Orange. Row 10 George Grant and Jeremy Crook. Row 11 for Simon Fleet and Russell Tamplin, whilst the 12th row is where we find Steve Dolman and Carl Garnett. Row 13 for David Henderson and Andy Coombs, row 14 Alex King and Michael Lawson, Dave Willoughby and Ian McDonald, row 15, and at the back of the grid all on his own is Greg Catton. Well, race 1 here at Silverstone got finals weekend off to the perfect start, with Tom Roach and James Blake Baldwin just 1 point apart at the head of the tables, starting on the front row of the grid together. And before the cars had even completed the first lap of the race, the two of them were running wheel to wheel, fighting for the race lead. Further back, the fighting was equally as intense. Brian Chandler was in the thick of the action, so too was Simon Goddard and a struggling Paul O'Neill. However, as the cars came through to complete lap 1, already Blake Baldwin and Roach were side by side, nothing to choose between them. The theme of the race, though, was going to be about how other drivers outside of the title fight could affect things. As Roach was able to go through into the race lead, Jack Harding was close enough to follow him through at the first corner. That hung Blake Baldwin out to dry on the dirty side of the road. He lost momentum, and Johnny Greensmith was able to come through and snatch 3rd place away as well. That meant that all of a sudden Blake Baldwin was looking set not only to lose the championship lead, but to lose several more points to Tom Roach, with cars running between the two championship protagonists. Immediately though, Blake Baldwin tried to fight back up the inside here at Vale of Johnny Greensmith, that part of the circuit proving not to be the place to overtake on that occasion, but up at Village halfway around the next lap, Blake Baldwin was able to slide back through into 3rd place. Further back, Nick Dunn had sustained rear damage after contact early on, while Brian Chandler was fighting a rearguard action to keep the likes of Richard Wickland and Jamie Goddard at bay. He was able to do that for much of the race, but had to make his MX-5 extremely wide. At the front, Tom Roach was busy defending the race lead, and this was causing chaos behind, as the cars behind were busy tripping over each other whilst also trying to find a way past the Blendini driver. Blake Baldwin forced his way back into 2nd place ahead of Jack Harding, but they both ran wide at club, allowing Johnny Greensmith up the inside too. This would allow Tom Roach to make that all-important break, as down at the link, another mistake, this time from Greensmith, once more held the chasing pack up. That slight grassy moment lost Johnny lots of momentum out onto the Hanger straight, and both Jack Harding and James Blake Baldwin were able to find a way through. James then immediately pulled to the outside of Harding on the run up towards Stowe Corner, a risky move at the best of times, especially with a championship on the line, but James was determined to try and make progress. Jack, though, was equally determined to hold on to 2nd, outbraked himself in doing so, and as they both ran wide, Greensmith managed to take the 2 places straight back. This allowed Tom Collins and Liam Murphy to make it a fantastic 5-way scrap, but now for 2nd place, with Tom Roach very much escaping up the road. Up towards Village once more, and Blake Baldwin saw the opportunity to go up the inside of Johnny Greensmith. That opened the door for Jack Harding, ever the opportunist, to follow him through into 3rd place as well. Johnny, though, would fight back up towards Stowe Corner on the inside of Jack Harding, and as the two ran inches apart, it was Johnny that was able to move back through into 3rd place. At Stowe on the next lap, the 3 of them were tied together, with James Blake Baldwin just about able to hang on to 2nd place. They were now, though, escaping the fight that was breaking out for 5th place between Liam Murphy and Tom Collins, having one of his best runs of the season. Liam was busy defending as the cars bounced their way down in towards the link, and despite making a few errors, was able to keep Collins at bay for quite some time. Tom, though, eventually found a gap up the inside towards Stowe, Liam was having none of it, and the two of them ran side by side through one of the fastest corners on the circuit. Eventually, though, Liam would make this mistake at the links, spinning it all away and losing a handful of places, falling eventually outside of the top 10. That promoted Tom Collins into 5th place. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Blake Baldwin, Greensmith and Harding were busy working together to try and close in on the race leader Tom Roach, and it was working. They were lapping slightly quicker than the Blendini car. However, ultimately they would run out of time, and as Roach came through the final corner, putting Ian McDonald a lap down in the process, he saw the checkered flag and took yet another race win. Or so it seemed. However, a 5-second time penalty was applied post-race for exceeding the track limits, meaning that actually James Blake Baldwin would inherit the race win, with Greensmith 2nd, Harding 3rd and Roach demoted to 4th, meaning the championship picture changed again. No longer was Roach about to take over the championship lead, but instead he was going to fall further back from Blake Baldwin than he had been coming into the weekend. Tom Collins rounded out the top 5, whilst outside the top 10, the likes of Gary Townsend and Liam Murphy were slightly disappointed with their results. So too was Paul O'Neill, who had steering issues. Further down again, Richard Wickland had dramas. He fell down to 24th by the end of the race, whilst Ian McDonald was the first car 1 lap down in 30th. Nick Dunn also falling 1 lap down after pitting to repair damage. Cars lining up on the grid then ahead of race number 2 here at Silverstone in what could be a pivotal race in this championship chase. James Blake Baldwin and Tom Roach set to do battle from 1st and 4th respectively on the grid. Here is how the whole field lines up. James Blake Baldwin has the pole with Greensmith alongside on row 1, Harding and Roach row 2, Tom Collins and Simon Goddard on row 3 with Chris Dawkins and Jamie Goddard on the 4th row. Row 5 for Brian Chandler and Nathan Bell, row 6 Gary Townsend and Liam Murphy, Paul O'Neill one to watch for from row 7 alongside Carl Garnett and Simon Orange and Jeff Gurrier on row 8. Well, we had a torrential downpour this morning and the track is drying, but as you can see, driver's right is significantly wetter than driver's left. This could have an effect off the start. Away we go, and yes, James Blake Baldwin scrabbling for grip, doesn't get a great start. Johnny Greensmith gets the lead on the run down towards Abbey for the first time, and Tom Roach, crucially, is already up alongside James Blake Baldwin in towards the first corner. They're wheel to wheel, and Roach goes right around the outside. He goes through. Now, for Tom Roach in this race, it is simple. He has to beat James Blake Baldwin to keep his championship hopes alive, realistically at least. He lost too many points to Blake Baldwin after that penalty in race 1. He now has to get those points back to take the fight down to the final race. So it's really important here for Tom Roach to try and beat James Blake Baldwin. He's got in front of him for now, but they're both chasing Johnny Greensmith, who leads the way. It's 2nd place for Roach, 3rd is Blake Baldwin, 4th Simon Goddard, 5th is Nathan Bell. All of the cars that started in even numbers on the outside of the grid, they had the drier line, and they're the ones that have made progress. The likes of Jack Harding, for example, and Tom Collins have slipped backwards. Here they come then down towards Stoke Corner, and here comes the move from Tom Roach. It's the first possible opportunity to find a way through, and he goes for it up the inside of Johnny Greensmith. He takes the race lead. Greensmith slots into 2nd. Of course, for Tom, it's not just about beating James Blake Baldwin, it's about getting as many cars as possible between himself and James Blake Baldwin, because that way he'll take even more points out of his great championship rival. Down towards Vale, Greensmith tries to fight back around the outside. That was never likely to work though, and so he settles back in line with Roach, Greensmith, Blake Baldwin, Simon Goddard and Nathan Bell, this top 5, and then the likes of Jack Harding and Tom Collins, 2 to watch out for, trying to move their way through after their poor starts. The racing line is bone dry, but as you can see, there are little patches offline that are still quite wet, and the curbs and the AstroTurf on the edge of the road, will be very, very slippery indeed. Johnny Greensmith with a good run through Abbey that time, though, at the start of the 2nd lap. He's right behind Tom Roach, who defends the inside line in towards Village. Blake Baldwin there as well. The more Roach defends, the more it holds the cars behind him up, but that could work in his favour because it brings more cars onto the tail of James Blake Baldwin, more potential therefore for cars to get between them and give Tom an even bigger points advantage. He's still not that many points behind Blake Baldwin in the championship, but he does need to take as many as possible out of James in this race. Further back, side by side between Paul O'Neill and Liam Murphy, and it's almost side by side for the race lead. Yes, it is in fact. Johnny Greensmith using the slipstream gets to the outside of Tom Roach, but James Blake Baldwin's in there as well with a double slipstream. Who arrives at Stowe first? It's Greensmith. Johnny Greensmith has the race lead back again. So it's Greensmith, Roach and Blake Baldwin the order at the front of the field, and Blake Baldwin gets a really good run through Stowe, gets himself alongside Tom Roach on the run down towards Vale. He's on the wrong side of the road though, really. Roach will have to be very late on the brakes on the inside line to try and hold on to this 2nd place. He is. Oh, he's too late though. He gets into the back of Johnny Greensmith. He spins Johnny Greensmith, and Johnny Greensmith is pointing the wrong way. I don't believe it. Tom Roach and Johnny Greensmith make contact. Oh, and Simon Orange unfortunately arrives on the scene and clatters into the side of Johnny Greensmith's stricken car. That will be the end of the race surely for both of them. And it all settles out then with Blake Baldwin ahead of Roach. So Blake Baldwin leads. Roach is second, third for Simon Goddard, fourth Jack Harding, and fifth for Tom Collins. That's the order at the head of the field. But with the demise of Johnny Greensmith, that's one less car that potentially could have finished between these two, so not really worked out that well for Tom Roach, and it was he who instigated the contact as well. We'll have to wait and see if that gets discussed post-race. There is Johnny Greensmith's car. That looks rather badly damaged. That may require the safety car, I feel, to get that car moved out of the way. It's clearly going no further, and it's sat right in the middle of the road. For the time being, though, we're still racing, and Tom Roach is tucking himself into the slipstream down the hanger straight, trying to find a way past James Blake Baldwin. Is he going to be able to pull out? Oh, well, he is, but only because Blake Baldwin slows. He has his hand out of the cockpit. That's because he's seen the safety car boards and the yellow flags. Now, this is, David Willoughby, who collects the stricken Johnny Greensmith. We didn't see that before, and that is a fairly sizable shunt. The safety car will be out for a while. Joins after the break for the restart. Hello and welcome back to Silverstone. The safety car is in, the race is about to resume with James Blake Baldwin and Tom Roach locked in combat at the head of the field, but they've now been joined by their sparring partner from race one, or one of them at least, Jack Harding, who was right in the thick of it, wasn't he, throughout most of that first race. Away we go then, we're back under green flag racing conditions, and out towards the start of the lap they go. Further back, Gary Townsend, look, has spun approaching the safety car restart. That's something I've not seen before. He clearly has lost it through Club, which is still quite slippery, and looking not to collected by anybody there. Anyway, the race leaders have safely negotiated the restart. They're heading up towards Village once more, and it is Blake Baldwin from Roach, from Harding, from Collins, the top four. Simon Goddard is there in fifth position, having a decent run, but it's these four that have broken away at the head of the field. Watch for the man in sixth though as well, the green and grey car of Paul O'Neill. He had steering issues in yesterday's race, didn't have the feel for the car at all, but he's clearly running better in this one. He was working on the car himself last night to try and get it fixed, and it clearly seems to have worked, because he's in sixth place now, and if he can get past Simon Goddard, he may have a chance of going after the leading group. The leading group are descending on Stowe Corner, and Tom Roach sees a gap up the inside, and there was only just a gap, but he sees it anyway. He goes for it. James Blake Baldwin doesn't want to risk turning in here. The last thing these two want to do is make contact with each other. They keep it clean for the time being. They're still side by side on the exit of the corner, but now we're going to turn left. This gives the advantage back to Blake Baldwin, and Roach knows it, so he ducks back in line before Jack Harding or Tom Collins had the idea of maybe slipping up the inside of him. They are almost trading paint though as they come through Vale and Club, and Blake Baldwin gets out over the AstroTurf. Oh, that's very, very slippery. James Blake Baldwin, how on earth did he hold on to the car then? He loses some positions, but he's very lucky not to be pointing completely the wrong way. That could have been utter disaster for his championship. It's not great because there are now two cars between himself and Tom Roach, and Roach is back in the race lead, but that could have been an awful lot worse. A rare mistake that from Blake Baldwin, but it just goes to show how much rain we had overnight and into the morning, and the grass and the AstroTurf and the painted curbs are like ice in these conditions, and James Blake Baldwin improving the point spectacularly through the final corner there. So he drops down to fourth place, but he's still got plenty of time left to try and fight back. It's Roach from Harding, from now possibly Blake Baldwin back into third, because Tom Collins runs wide through the link, gets two wheels out in the dirt, and so Blake Baldwin does move back through. 6 laps completed, plenty more drama on the way, I'm sure. We're not even halfway through this race yet. A few windscreen wipers working backwards and forwards as well. There may still be a bit of moisture in the air. Here though comes Jack Harding. Jack Harding, he doesn't care about the championship fight, he just wants another race victory. He won twice at Rockingham last time out, remember. He wants his third ever SuperCup win if he can get it. He's alongside Tom Roach through Stowe Corner, but as we've seen so many times in the past, that gives you the outside line down in towards Vale. Let's see what Jack Harding can do though. He's late on the brakes. Does he go right round the outside? No. Roach prevails this time. He holds on to the race lead. Harding though showing straight away there that he is not afraid to mix it with Tom Roach and James Blake Baldwin, regardless of their championship battle that's going on. Jack is not a part of that. Jack is focusing on 2017. He wants to end this year as strongly as possible and carry that momentum through into next year's campaign. So another race victory would go a long way towards boosting his confidence going into the winter break. I noticed further back, by the way, that Paul O'Neill's now found his way into 5th position, so he's got past Simon Goddard at some point, and he's now right with this leading train. So Paul O'Neill is going to be a factor in this race, I think. Former British Touring Car race winner, in towards Village, and yes, you can see in the background there, he's trying to go around the outside of Tom Collins. Not convinced it worked, but he certainly is doing his best to become a part of this podium fight. Down the hill, into the link they go. That fight between Collins and O'Neill has just held them both up a bit and allowed the top three to make a small break. O'Neill, though, now has got himself possibly alongside Tom Collins. No, Tom gets across to the inside line and defends it. And in fact, it's Simon Goddard who gets a good run. What of the leading trio, though? Jack Harding is almost pushing Tom Roach down the hanger straight. Is there room on the inside? No. What about the outside? Well, no, because James Blake Baldwin's there. James is trying to go around the outside of Jack for second place. Is that one going to pay off? This is a big risk here for James Blake Baldwin. He does not want to get involved in any pushing and shoving here. Down towards Vale again. Harding defends the inside line, or the middle ground at least, and Blake Baldwin still frustratedly can't find a way through. Back out to the completion of another lap of the race. We're about halfway through this one now, I reckon, and still no clear favourite emerging. It doesn't look, though, as though even Tom Roach can really escape at the front of the field. He's got a small gap now, but you know with the effect of the slipstream around this place that the two cars behind him, Jack Harding and James Blake Baldwin, are likely to catch him. It's O'Neill in fourth, Liam Murphy look up into fifth place, so Tom Collins has been shuffled down into sixth. There he is, just fending off Simon Goddard and Nathan Bell. Leaders though up in towards Village. Now if Harding starts defending here from James Blake Baldwin, that is good news for Tom Roach. He can escape up the road, and certainly Tom will want Jack Harding to stay in second place, because that's a car between himself and Blake Baldwin, and there would be only a handful of points apart then going into the final race of the season later on this afternoon. Back down the hanger straight we go. Plenty of ducking and diving going on behind. Look, Simon Goddard getting himself alongside Tom Collins, and James Blake Baldwin getting himself alongside Jack Harding. Up towards Stowe Corner we go. This is for second place, and on the brakes I think that Blake Baldwin, yes, he goes through. So nice move made that by James. Richard Wickham we saw there has the fastest lap, by the way, that he set just a lap ago. So Richard Wickham, who's running some way down the order but has had the odd flash of brilliance this year, hasn't he? He had a few races mid-season where he was up there fighting for podiums and race wins. If you can turn that into consistency next year, there is another potential championship contender. Out through Club Corner we go, and we are now back in the all-too familiar position of having Tom Roach leading the way with James Blake Baldwin chasing him down. Those two always seem to find their way to the front of the field in some order or another, don't they? And now Roach is having to defend from Blake Baldwin in towards Abbey. That put Roach out down onto the damper side of the road, but it didn't seem to slow him down too much. Blake Baldwin in the tricky position of attacking and defending at the same time. He wants to go to the outside of Roach there to try and put him under pressure, but he daren't, because he knows that that leaves the door open for Jack Harding. Here's a nice battle going on further back. Andy Coombs and Simon Fleet, and Simon Fleet ends up out onto the AstroTurf, which we saw James Blake Baldwin on before, and nearly then gets collected by Alex King as he rejoins, and that all got a little bit physical, didn't it? Gary Townsend in this group too, recovering after his spin earlier on. Andy Coombs there in the bright orange car, losing a place to David Henderson as he was busy tripping over Simon Fleet, and David took advantage, got past the pair of them. Now Alex King is trying to get through as well. He's up the inside in towards Village. Once more, we're proving just how close the racing is. No matter where you look in the field, be it at the front, the back, or anywhere in between, you always have someone to race with, don't you? And, car spinning off to the side of the road there. That might, I think, have been David Henderson, actually, who I just mentioned. Yes, David Henderson's now disappeared from the front of this group, so Henderson had a bit of a spin then, and not sure whether he made contact with the Armco, but he certainly lost several positions. Leaders coming back through Club, and Jack Harding gets a good run through there, gets up the inside of Blake Baldwin. Gets put up over the big sausage curb though, and that could have done some damage to the car. He got away with it, but that was a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment for Jack. Back up towards Abbey, and Roach, he really can't escape here, can he? I do believe he's trying to get away. I don't think this is any gamesmanship going on. I don't think he's trying to back Blake Baldwin up into Harding or anything like that. But by my reckoning, we have 2 laps to go, and still any one of these 3 could win the race, and either Tom Roach or James Blake Baldwin could go into the finale as championship leader. It could not be tighter. Through Village, down towards the link. Not really an overtaking opportunity, but to be honest, it's the only corner on the circuit that you can't overtake. Down onto the hanger straight though. There is a car recovering to the pit lane as well with quite a bit of front end damage. That's the 41 car. That's David Willoughby, who was caught up with Johnny Greensmith earlier on, wasn't he? Here though comes the attack from James Blake Baldwin. Blake Baldwin to the outside of Tom Roach, who's sitting duck with the slipstream, and Blake Baldwin goes through. So James Blake Baldwin carried the momentum of the slipstream right round the outside, and round the outside of the pair of them comes Jack Harding. Jack Harding out of absolutely nowhere. Well, I didn't think he was going to get the cars topped, in fairness, and he didn't, but he might just get second place away from Roach. And all of a sudden the pendulum swings back in the favour of James Blake Baldwin, doesn't it? Because now Blake Baldwin has the lead and Harding is second, so it's completely flicked around from having Roach with a car between himself and Blake Baldwin, and now it's Blake Baldwin in the race lead and Roach down to third. They couldn't be any closer though as they come through and see the last lap board. So 1 lap to go here at Silverstone, and Blake Baldwin has the race lead. Jack Harding in second, third for Tom Roach. Up towards Abbey Corner they go. And who is going to come out on top in this one? Harding has been the man who's been making some really impressive moves around the outside at Stowe, in particular on that occasion, but he's now got to try and defend from Tom Roach, but he's also trying to find a way through into the race lead too. It's getting too busy for words, this, isn't it? It's Blake Baldwin, Harding and Roach. You imagine one of these three is going to win the race, but what order they finish in is absolutely crucial for the outcome of the championship. Down towards the link we go again, and back out onto the hanger straight. Blake Baldwin it is who has the lead, but we've seen already the effect of the slipstream down here means you don't necessarily want to be the race leader. It's Harding who's going to draw himself alongside, but Blake Baldwin makes him go the long way round. This, though, has not deterred Jack Harding in the past. He went round the outside of Tom Roach a lap ago, and he's now trying to do the same for the race lead on James Blake Baldwin. They're absolutely wheel to wheel as they turn into the corner, and Harding's going for it. He's going right round the outside through one of the quickest corners in British motorsport. Blake Baldwin is sideways, and Jack Harding is still there. Phenomenal driving from Jack Harding. He gets himself alongside. He's got the inside line down into Vale. They just trade a little bit of paint. This is the last lap of the race, and Jack Harding goes through. Jack Harding through into the race lead, and now it's just all about the drag through club and up towards the checkered flag. Remarkably, Jack Harding, with one of the moves of the season, takes his third win in 2016. James Blake Baldwin, though, is a very happy second place with Tom Roach in third. That surely puts one hand on the championship crown now for James Blake Baldwin. O'Neill is fourth, Liam Murphy is fifth, and the rest of them all filing through further back. But what a move that was from Jack Harding. That proves just how much he's learnt over the last 2 years of MX-5 SuperCup racing, and he put it all into practice to take that victory. Plenty of scrapping going on further back. Andy Coombs and Gary Townsend side by side to the line. George Grant and Simon Fleet in behind. They all get safely to the checkered flag though, which is good to see. But Jack Harding is your race winner for the third time in his career, for the third time in the last two meetings. He really has come on strong at the end of the year. However, there is more drama, because after that contact between Tom Roach and Johnny Greensmith, Tom Roach has been excluded from the results. So it's Harding from Blake Baldwin from Paul O'Neill now the top three. Outside the top 10, Brian Chandler is 11th, Jamie Goddard is 12th, then Nick Dunn, Jeff Gurrier and Russell Tamplin rounds out the top 15. And then at the bottom of the page we can see Simon Orange, David Willoughby, Johnny Greensmith were non-finishers. But as I said, Tom Roach has been excluded from the result, and that means that James Blake Baldwin provisionally is your 2016 Mazda MX-5 SuperCup champion.
Well, to be honest, I didn't even know it was the last lap. So no, when I came around the corner, I saw a checkered flag. I couldn't be more thankful, to be honest, because trying to roll on from them guys for another lap would have been really difficult. Managed to squeeze my way through into second with James, get past Tom. I knew James was going to be tricky to overtake. Got a good run on him down into Stowe, and I just managed to get around the outside. I don't know. I thought I've got nothing to lose. You know what I mean? I'm not fighting for the win of the championship. Big gap to the guys behind. I've got nothing to lose, so I just tried it around the outside and managed to pull it off. So no, I was really happy with that.
Oh, it was absolutely an amazing battle. I thought I'd lost it at one point, but yeah, came through in the end. I knew the car had the pace in it. Chris at Kent MX-5 Service has done an amazing job for me all year, and I can't thank him enough, along with many others. That I wouldn't be standing here unless without them. And yeah, just managed to hold it together, and now we've won the championship.
Well, speaking of winning championships, Ray Worley is now just one race away from being crowned the 2016 Masters champion.
This year, I've had a very good year. I am actually the current 2015 champion. I'd like to be the 2016 champion. Nearly there. I've just got to do one more race. I need to finish, but I don't really need to kill myself doing it. I have sponsors here today who've come to support me. They've been supporting me all year, and it wouldn't be right for me to just try and be last. I don't want to be last. If I am last, it's it's one of those things, but it's fine. But of course, we're racing drivers. We want to do as well as we possibly can.
Well, with the championship wrapped up, race 3 is set to be an all-out fight for that last win of the season. Join us after the break. So it's the end of term in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup for 2016. The championship's been decided, but there's still one more race to go. A last chance for the drivers to get out there and have some fun. Here's how they line up. It's the result from race 2. So Harding and Blake Baldwin row 1, O'Neill and Murphy row 2, with Collins and Goddard on the third row, Richard Wickland and Chris Dawkins on row 4, row 5 for Garnett and Nathan Bell, row 6 Brian Chandler and Jamie Goddard, row 7 Nick Dunn and Jeff Gurrier, with Russell Tamplin and Steve Dolman on the 8th row. Tom Roach then, after his exclusion from race number 2, starts from the back of the grid. You've got Blake Baldwin, the champion-elect, on the front row alongside Jack Harding, who wants his 4th win of the season, and Paul O'Neill finally seems to have got his head around the car this weekend. He wants a win, or at the very least a podium. Away we go then for the final time in 2016, and this time who gets to start from the front row of the grid? It's going to be Blake Baldwin, isn't it then? On a high after clinching the championship in race 2, he takes the lead into turn 1. Harding 2nd, Murphy and O'Neill side by side for 3rd, the rest of them filing through 3 and 4 abreast further back. They're all safely through, on board with Ray Worley. He was having a nice dice there with Russell Tamplin and David Henderson as they head up towards the right-hander village. There goes Tamplin, and there goes Henderson round the outside, so a couple of places lost there unfortunately for Ray Worley. There's Johnny Greensmith. They've got that car fixed remarkably after his fairly sizable shunt in race 2, but he's now getting a bit of contact with Andy Coombs as he went through village in that repaired car at the start of this final race of the year. So it's Blake Baldwin, Harding, Murphy, O'Neill the top 4. 5th looks to be Chris Dawkins, and then for 6th it's side by side with Tom Collins on the inside, Simon Goddard on the outside, and Richard Wickham with 2 wheels almost in the dirt makes it 3 abreast up the inside towards Stowe Corner. The circuit plenty wide enough for 3 abreast, but it does get a bit close for comfort up at certain parts of the circuit. There are Nick Dunn and Gary Townsend doing battle a bit further back. They make their way out of Stowe down towards Vale, where we've seen so much action already this weekend. Are we about to see some more? Tom Collins is trying to create some by going up the inside of Richard Wickham. It doesn't quite pay off though, and round the outside of him comes Brian Chandler, who clobbers the curb. That loses him a bit of momentum though, and allows Simon Goddard to draw level around the outside. Carl Garnett is the orange and grey car who is right behind. They make that right alongside Chandler, so they're 3 abreast as they come across the start-finish line. Goddard gets ahead of Chandler. Can Garnett do the same? He's got the inside line. You'd imagine he probably will be able to. And then it's Nathan Bell in the white and green Blink Motorsport car who tries to find a gap on the inside as well, but to no avail. So already this race does have that very much end-of-term feel about it, doesn't it? The drivers letting their hair down a bit in this final encounter of the 2016 season. The battling is intense in the midfield as it is right at the head of the train. As there, unfortunately, it's become a bit too intense for George Grant, who's sustained a bit of front right suspension damage by the look of it. Up in front, oh dear, that is Alex King getting into the side of Jeff Gurrier, and George Grant had nowhere to go and clatters into the side of them. Gurrier's got away with it, but George Grant, unfortunately, appears to be out of the race, and there goes Tom Roach, look, taking full advantage of that, as ever, seems to be able to slip his way through the drama. George Grant, meanwhile, though, with the wheel yanked hard left, the car is turning hard right towards the pit wall. He's barely got control, and as the suspension finally gives way, he decides that it's probably safer to pull off to the side of the road. Alex King, I feel, will have to pull into the pit lane for repairs. That car's looking very second-hand after that incident. Tom Collins and Richard Wickham side by side again. They almost trade a bit of paint through Club there, but Wickham it is who hangs on. Oh, Steve Dolman's off as well up at Club, I noticed, and he seems to be missing a front right wheel. So Vale once more is the trouble spot, isn't it? It's where a lot of drama seems to occur, and race 3 is no different. Up towards the first corner we go. This is Brian Chandler defending now from Nathan Bell around the outside. Nick Dunn is in there as well, looking the Paul Sheard racing car, and couldn't quite make that move stick. That loses momentum through Abbey, and so Gary Townsend and Jamie Goddard and Tom Roach, remarkably, who's already caught this group, so he's well in amongst the midfield runners now. He's gone past Jamie Goddard, now he dives up the inside of Nick Dunn. Tom Roach, if you want to learn how to overtake in a Mazda MX-5, watch his onboard footage from this race, because he's going to be doing a lot of it, isn't he? He's already sustained a bit of damage to the front left corner of the car, but it's not slowing him down. That was 3 places gained in as many corners. Fantastic driving from Mr. MX-5 himself. At the front of the field, though, is the 2016 provisional Mazda MX-5 SuperCup champion, and it is James Blake Baldwin who leads the way. Harding second, side by side for third there between Liam Murphy on the outside. Chris Dawkins going right round the outside, trying to get the inside line down towards Vale. We'll see if that worked in a moment or two. Checking in further back, there goes Tom Roach, dicing with Gary Townsend, who ends up out wide over the edge of the track, but that still gives him the inside line down towards Vale, so he should be able to defend from Nick Dunn for the time being. Indeed he can. Tom Roach clobbers the curb, and so he will, I'm sure, in a way, relish this opportunity to come through from the back of the field. He's carving through them like the proverbial hot knife through butter, isn't he? Up the inside now of Nathan Bell coming out of the final corner. And Tom Roach, well, he may not be taking home the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup title this year, but he certainly will be out for a good result in this final race of the season. Back with the leaders, Liam Murphy here trying to find a way through into third position. Paul O'Neill there in the green and grey car in 5th place. He had steering issues in race 1, but they got that sorted for race 2. He moved his way up the order nicely, and now he wants that podium. He inherited the podium after race 2 and Tom Roach's disqualification, but he didn't get to actually stand on the trophy and take the silverware, so Paul O'Neill determined to try and get himself up there this time, as behind Carl Garnett spins, and that is Simon Goddard Goddard, who almost does the same in avoidance, and guess who benefits from that and finds a way past the lot of them? Tom Roach has gained another few positions out of all of that, so he's now, I think, inside the top 10, would you believe? So Carl Garnett spinning down the order. Simon Goddard also held up, but that does not affect this leading quartet of cars. James Blake Baldwin, Jack Harding, Chris Dawkins and Liam Murphy, and it's Dawkins this time who pulls out of line down towards Vale. He's looking to the inside of Jack Harding. Jack sees him coming, leaves him just enough room on the inside, knowing that that still gives him the inside line through club, and in fact it's Dawkins who gets a bit out of shape and allows Liam Murphy to close right onto his boot lid. So as they come out of the corner, the positions stay the same, but actually it's Harding who's gained a bit of an advantage now over the cars behind him, and that advantage is only set to increase the more Chris Dawkins has to defend from Liam Murphy. Through Abbey they go once more, using a bit of the curb on the inside, try and stay away from the curb on the outside of the corner though, that's not the place to be. Then up towards Village, one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit. Is Liam Murphy going to go for it? He's thinking about it, but Liam's in that difficult position now of attacking for third, but also defending his fourth position from Paul O'Neill, who has closed right in now as a result of these two dicing. It's also risking letting the top two just escape up the road slightly. So back out of the link, over the curbs on the exit, back down the back straight they go. 4 laps completed. Blake Baldwin leads the way, Harding in second, third is Dawkins, fourth Murphy, fifth O'Neill. Richard Wickland was in sixth at the line, but you can see in the background Tom Collins has now found a way past him, so Wickland down to seventh, and Tom Roach is eighth from 31st on the grid, and Tom Roach is 8th after 4 laps. That is quite incredible. That's why he is Mr. Mazda MX-5, and as I said, he may not have the title this year in the MX-5 Super Cup, but he's certainly established himself as one of the leading lights. We very much hope that he'll be back for more fun in 2017. Leaders down through Vale, and James Blake Baldwin at the moment seems to have all of the answers to the questions being asked of him by Jack Harding, doesn't he? Jack Harding is sat in the slipstream, he's following James Blake Baldwin round without really applying too much pressure for the time being. Of course, it's really in those two's best interest to simply work together and try and escape from this trio of cars squabbling over third place. Chris Dawkins, the more he defends, the more he's going to hold himself and Liam Murphy and Paul O'Neill up, and the more it's going to allow James Blake Baldwin and Jack Harding to escape at the front of the field, down towards the right-hander at Village, and this time it's O'Neill who goes on the attack, round the outside, right around the outside of Liam Murphy. That's really brave if it works. Liam sort of shows him the edge of the track, but he left just enough room there for Paul, but Paul still finds himself on the outside line down towards the link. He won't go right round the outside, he'll instead try and cut back and get the switch back down the hanger straight. As he managed to get the overlap, not quite. Liam Murphy pulls across in front of him. Great close quarters racing from these two. Paul O'Neill, former British Touring Car Championship race winner, but he's become a real fan of the MX-5 Super Cup in recent years, reckons it's one of the best championships in the country, and it's hard to argue with when you see just how close the racing is, not just for the lead, but all the way through the field. Hello and welcome back to Silverstone, the final round of the 2016 Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. The championship may have been decided, but this race certainly has not been, has it? Jack Harding has now taken 3 race victories in his MX-5 Super Cup career, and he's taken them all inside the last 2 race meetings of the season, but he wants more. He wants his 4th win, doesn't he? And he's only 1 position away from it. He's tucked right in the slipstream of James Blake Baldwin's car, so close behind him that you actually can't see him for the majority of the hanger straight. He's tucked right in behind, but now he pulls out and thought about going to the inside. Now, I think the reason we couldn't see him is because he was literally pushing James Blake Baldwin down the straight. That's what the wave of appreciation was there from James. It wasn't an angry gesticulation. He was quite happy that he was getting a bit of assistance down the back straight. These two trying to work together at this stage of the race to escape from the cars further back. Yellow flags down at Vale. They're busy recovering Steve Dolman's car, which went off there earlier on, so no overtaking at that part of the circuit for the time being anyway, so it's in Jack's best interest for now to work with the race leader, build a gap on the cars behind, and then do battle over the final portion of the race. They're not a huge amount away from the 3 cars behind them, but they are certainly pulling away by a few tenths of a second a lap. Back through turn 1, and we're seeing a replay now of Ian McDonald, who loses it coming into the link, and the Townsend vehicle hire liveried machine in a slightly unorthodox method will get going again, but having lost plenty of ground. Got a brief glimpse there of Tom Roach, who's continuing to move his way through the order. Top 5 could even be on the cards if he's able to bridge the gap to this leading group. The leading group now, though, is descending the hill in towards the link once again. 7 laps completed in this one. We're expecting 15. That was the sort of distance that we saw in the earlier races. As for third place, Paul O'Neill is trying to find a way past Chris Dawkins because he's found a way past Liam Murphy already into 4th. As that's happening though, Jack Harding is making his first decisive move to try and take over the race lead. You don't know where to look really, do you? Focus on third place for the time being, because I think Paul O'Neill is definitely going to go through. Yes, he does. So O'Neill has gone from 5th to 3rd on this lap. What of the race leaders though? Is it still James Blake Baldwin? No, it's not. Jack Harding's gone through. Blake Baldwin's thinking about fighting back down towards the Vale though, and Harding sees him coming, goes very wide on the way into the corner, but again he knows that he still has the inside line for Club. Blake Baldwin will try and get a switch back though into the second apex. He's got his nose in the door. Harding sees him coming, leaves him again, just about enough room there, wheel to wheel, out across the start finish line with Jack Harding on the outside, James Blake Baldwin on the inside line. These two have been working together up to this point, but if they start falling over each other, those 3 cars behind are going to get very close very quickly, especially now Paul O'Neill is leading that train. We know how quick he can be. So James Blake Baldwin goes back through into the race lead. Harding though is not content to sit behind him anymore, is he? Pulls back alongside up towards Village. Can't do it there. We'll look for a switch back on the exit of the corner. That's not going to happen either though, I don't think. So Blake Baldwin, having briefly lost the lead for a corner or so, is now back out in front, and Harding has it all to do again. Look though at the way that Paul O'Neill, having got into 3rd place, is not only catching the leaders, he's actually getting away from Chris Dawkins and Liam Murphy, isn't he? He'll catch a whiff of a slipstream from the leading 2 cars down the back straight, who are side by side again. Harding to the outside of James Blake Baldwin, this time down towards Stowe. They leave half a car's width between the two of them as they approach the braking zone in towards the quick right-hander. This is one of the better overtaking opportunities on the circuit, but it's very difficult to go around the outside. Jack Harding tried it, it didn't work, and so he tucks back into line again on the run down the hill towards Vale, where surely Blake Baldwin will have to defend. Yes, he does, and look at how this defensive driving has brought Paul O'Neill onto their case as well. 3 for the lead, very soon to be 5 for the lead, I think, though, because as these 3 start falling over each other, Dawkins and Murphy aren't far back at all, and so midway through the race, battle is well and truly joined once more between James Blake Baldwin, Jack Harding, Paul O'Neill, Chris Dawkins and Liam Murphy. Has Harding got a run on the inside? No, Blake Baldwin gets across to cover, so Harding goes back to the outside again, and Blake Baldwin weaves that way too. Fantastic defensive driving that from Blake Baldwin. Whichever way Jack Harding went, he was determined he was going to be there to cover any potential move up towards the braking zone at Village, and now Paul O'Neill becomes the man on a move. They're almost 3 abreast into the braking zone, but still James Blake Baldwin will not relinquish the race lead. Harding still second, but for how much longer? Because O'Neill's got his nose in the door on the inside line. This will be the right line to be on into the link, and Paul O'Neill, I think, is about to go through into 2nd place. Yes, he does. Fantastic driving from Paul O'Neill in a guest entry this weekend here at Silverstone, but he has raced these cars and won in these cars in the past, but this is his first opportunity at a race win in 2016, and he is keen to capitalise on it. Side by side with Jack Harding still though for 2nd place on the run down towards Stowe Corner. Is this the opportunity Blake Baldwin's been looking for, maybe, to escape out in front? Through goes Paul O'Neill, so he does now complete the manoeuvre into 2nd place, as long as he doesn't run wide at Stowe, which he does not, so he makes the move stick nicely. Now Jack Harding was working with Blake Baldwin earlier on. He's now going to be in the same position, this time though with Paul O'Neill, isn't he? O'Neill in 2nd position, but they've dropped a fair way now behind James Blake Baldwin, so they're going to have to try and apply a bit of teamwork here, I think, to close in on the champion-elect. Out through Club Takeover again, fantastic race, and you can really tell that the pressure's off now, isn't it? The championship's been decided. They all know this is just an opportunity to try and get themselves a last race win of the year, or a last podium maybe. For Paul O'Neill, he really has nothing to lose because he's not a championship contender anyway. This is a one-off drive, but he's having to defend 2nd place now from a fired up Jack Harding, who sees a gap to the inside up towards Village. He's not quite close enough though to pounce. Paul O'Neill just drifting a bit wide, but you sense that really these two aren't working together very well, are they? Paul O'Neill is watching his mirrors, he's feeling the need to defend, and this is allowing James Blake Baldwin just to pull away. Look, nearly 3/4 of a second the advantage that he had at the start of this lap. Bit of traffic looming ahead of them as well. It's Johnny Greensmith, whose car, although it's been patched up after his race 2 shunt, clearly isn't running at 100%. Further back, by the way, Tom Roach is 6th, Tom Collins is in 7th position, and 8th place, by the look of it, is Brian Chandler, with Nathan Bell running in 9th place. Here comes Harding back up the inside of Paul O'Neill for 2nd, and does it. That was a textbook move there into Stowe Corner. Runs a bit wide on the exit. It's a bit of a block pass, but it works. So O'Neill now tucked back in line behind the STP livery number 43 machine, the Richard Petty inspired paint scheme. In towards Vale Club, through the left, through the right. Don't take too much of that curve on the inside, but avoid the pit of debris that's been left there from the earlier shenanigans, and then back out onto the pit straight. I'd say, despite the fact that Harding and O'Neill just spent the best part of that last lap or so fighting, they are still lapping a bit quicker than the race leader, aren't they? James Blake Baldwin is being caught, well, maybe not by Paul O'Neill, but certainly by Jack Harding. Jack Harding had a really mega run through the final corner then and has caught the slipstream, and he's closing back in. The gap came down that time by a few tenths, so James Blake Baldwin, far from escaping, is going to have to defend again very shortly. Well, that was a bit clumsy. That was Russell Tamplin and Simon Fleet getting together down at Vale, these two fighting well outside the top 10. Carl Garnett recovering from his earlier moment as well up at the link. He now takes advantage, gets past one of the many Paul Sheard racing cars, the Russell Tamplin driven machine, and now sets off after Simon Fleet, and he may have even had a good enough run out of the final corner to get to the inside into turn 1. The car's crabbing, it's clearly not driving very well, but it's not slowing Carl Garnett down, is it? He picks another place up, and that holds Simon Fleet up and allows Russell Tamplin back alongside, so their battle can now resume. So Garnett gains 2 places and Fleet loses 2 possibly. They're all going to arrive at Village together, but Russell Tamplin gets the place and just avoids sideswiping Carl Garnett as they turn their way into the right-hander. So Simon Fleet, unfortunately, a beautiful looking car that, isn't it, the blue and pink machine, but it's just lost a couple of positions on that lap. Meanwhile, back at the head of the field, there's James Blake Baldwin, and there, look, not far behind him at all is Jack Harding. So just as we saw in the first part of the race, these two seem to have the pace on the rest of the field, don't they? Now to the final corner, across the start-finish line yet again. Paul O'Neill still 3rd, Chris Dawkins 4th, Liam Murphy 5th, and Tom Roach in 6th is lapping slightly quicker than this lot on some laps, but not consistently enough to be able to close in, I don't think, unless there's a bit more drama at the head of the field, which is entirely possible over the remaining 5 minutes or so of the race. Up towards Village we go again. Anyone going to make the move this time? They're all sort of thinking about it. They're all desperately late on the brakes as well, but they just about stay single file. Up towards the link, or down towards the link I should say. The cars rock on the suspension down what is a very bumpy part of the racetrack. 12 laps complete, so by my reckoning 3 more laps to go. And look, Jack Harding is now well and truly caught Blake Baldwin again, and James knows it. He's having to defend the inside line down towards Stowe Corner. Harding pulls out to the outside. They are either side of the circuit as they head up towards Stowe Corner. The 2 lines will converge in the braking zone though for 4th place. Meanwhile, Liam Murphy wants to get back past Chris Dawkins and maybe have a go at getting back after Paul O'Neill for 3rd as well. At the head of the field then, it's still going to be Blake Baldwin ahead of Jack Harding. That didn't change hands, but for 4th, well, they still haven't quite decided it, have they? They're still side by side, but Dawkins on the inside line will prevail for the time being, so he holds on to 4th, Liam Murphy 5th, and Tom Roach now all of a sudden is getting a little bit larger in their mirrors, isn't he? Still a couple of seconds back, but closing a bit quicker, I say, on this lap as a result of some of the fighting going on in front of him. It's a real momentum circuit. This is one of the fastest circuit that we race at in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, so once you do start running side by side, you will lose time to other cars, especially if they're setting the fastest laps of the race, as Tom Roach is. 1:19.409 is faster than anyone's been so far in this race, so he is clearly showing everyone else how it's done. I thought again that we'd lost Jack Harding then. He was just hidden behind James Blake Baldwin. These two have been inches apart for much of this 20-minute race, and you sense that Jack Harding might be a bit quicker, but it's just a case of finding a way through and making the move stick. Paul O'Neill's not given in yet either though, and with just over a lap and a half to go, he's not a million miles behind them, as once more down the Hanger Straight we see the weaving begin as James Blake Baldwin comes over to the inside line to cover the race lead. They've got a back marker in front of them, that's Johnny Greensmith, who usually will be racing with this lot, but the damage to the car means he's off pace in this one, and he will stay well out of the way as they head up towards Stowe Corner. Liam Murphy still can't find a way past Chris Dawkins. He tried the inside into Stowe last time. This time he tries the outside. That was never going to work, but Dawkins runs out of grip, runs out wide, and Murphy gets a much better exit off the corner. Down towards Vale they go. They'll run wheel to wheel, and look at the green Blendini car. Tom Roach is closing all the time. Into the left. Can Murphy go right round the outside of Chris Dawkins? The answer is no, and so Dawkins still relentlessly refuses to give up this 4th position as the leaders are side by side. All of a sudden the leaders side by side onto the final lap of the race. Jack Harding somehow found the overlap, and with less than a lap to go, he's about to go through into the race lead, surely on the inside at Abbey. Yes, indeed he does. So through goes Jack Harding. James Blake Baldwin down to 2nd, and he's now got less than a lap to try and find a way back through. Well, the championship is decided in the favour of James Blake Baldwin. He wants to round out 2016 on a high. The trouble is that he's now not just got to worry about getting back past Jack Harding, but also keeping a fired up Paul O'Neill behind him. 3 cars for the lead, half a lap to go in the race, half a lap to go in the season. How much more exciting could it be at the end of the year as out of the link they go again? Now Blake Baldwin will be tucked into the slipstream here down the back straight towards Stowe. Harding knows he's going to have to defend, so he comes right over to the white line on driver's right. Who's going to make the move first? Is it going to be Blake Baldwin to the outside? outside. Will Harding still feel the need to defend? He's going to have to, isn't he? Because Blake Baldwin is alongside him. Wheel to wheel with 3 corners to go. Can Blake Baldwin go right round the outside of Stowe corner? I've seen this done before, but it's very, very, very difficult to do indeed. Harding will show him the edge of the road and Blake Baldwin can't do it. One more opportunity to overtake and it's the next left-hander at Vale. Harding's defending the inside line. Blake Baldwin to the outside. What does Paul O'Neill do in all of this as well? In third, it looks as though Jack Harding might just have done enough to hang on though. It's all about the run off the final corner and the dash for the flag. The checkered flag comes up very quickly after club corner though, and Jack Harding gets win number 4 in 2016, but that was probably the one he had to work the hardest for. James Blake Baldwin is second, Paul O'Neill is third, and Tom Roach, would you believe, Tom Roach has come through to snatch 4th position at the final lap. He got past both Chris Dawkins and Liam Murphy on the last lap. 31st to 4th for Tom Roach. Need I say more? Fantastic drive that was from him. Murphy is 5th, Dawkins is 6th, with Wickland, Collins, Goddard and Brian Chandler rounding out the top 10. But James Blake Baldwin comes up just short of the final win of the year, but that will matter little to him. He is still the 2016 champion, but that man there could well be staking his claim to be the favourite to become the 2017 champion. 4 wins in quick succession at the end of the season. Jack Harding is the man on the move at the end of 2016. Blake Baldwin second ahead of O'Neill, Roach, Murphy, Dawkins, Wickland, Collins, Goddard and Brian Chandler round out the top 10. Then Nathan Bell 11th ahead of Simon Goddard, Gary Townsend, Carl Garnett and Jeff Gurrier rounds out the top 15 despite his first lap off down at Vale. Ray Worley is down in 21st. We lost Nick Dunn, Alex King, George Grant, Steve Dolman and David Willoughby unfortunately was a non-starter in that one, so too was Simon Orange, but everyone else did manage to get through to the end of the final race of the season, and what a way that was to round out the year.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better end to the year, really. You know, the win earlier this afternoon was absolutely brilliant. I'd have been quite happy to just, you know, finish in the top 3 again in this race, but, you know, ideally I was hungry for the win, but yeah, I managed to get the win. Yeah, going into next year, we've ended the year really strong. Hopefully we can start the year the same way we've ended this one. So.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing year, and I feel very privileged to be up and the top champion of the Super Cups. BRSCC have done an amazing job putting championship together. It's been really competitive and a really hard year. But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Chris Dawkins at Kent MX-5 Services. He's been a true friend and an amazing engineer on the car, as well as many other friends and family that have helped me to be here. So absolutely ecstatic to be number 1 for 2016.
Yeah, it did. You know, we started on the back foot and we were down in, I think, P10 for qualifying, and then we had a spin in the first race, and then it was just a disaster race. And I honestly, it's the worst I've felt for a long time. I thought I just can't deal with the car. There's something, you know, that I'm not doing right. So I felt bad because Paul and his boys had got me in here to do well. And then, yeah, we've ended up on the podium after the second and third race, and that was nuts. That was the car had the speed to win the race. My mistake, I went into 5th gear twice instead of 3rd, coming out the last chicane, so one of those things. But these 2 boys who've left their trophies behind, which I'm going to nick, did a really good job, and you know, the rightful winners were you know, on the podium here. I think they did a really good job. It was great.
So after 19 hard-fought races, James Blake Baldwin is your 2016 champion. Johnny Greensmith is second in the points, Jack Harding third and Liam Murphy fourth, whilst Tom Roach drops to 5th as a result of that disqualification here at Silverstone. Well, it's been a phenomenal season of racing in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, capped off perfectly by the dramatic finale here at Silverstone. We hope you've enjoyed the racing this year and that you'll join us in 2017 for more of the same.